Welcome to the Secret Traditions podcast, where ancient wisdom meets modern minds.
Welcome to a deep dive into the Tarot's Major Arcana. But don't worry, this isn't about predicting your future. Instead, we're going to unlock how these ancient symbols can reveal hidden truths about your own personal journey of self-discovery. Our guide for this exploration is the 2024 book, Tarot Major Arcana, Unlocking the Mysteries to the Journey of Self-Discovery.
What's fascinating is that the book uses the Major Arcana not for fortune-telling, but as a tool for introspection and self-awareness, much like esoteric schools and mystery schools have done for centuries. We'll be referencing popular decks like the Rider-Waite, but our focus is on the universal principles and archetypes, not specific card interpretations.
You know, before we go further, the book mentions something fascinating about the Tarot's origins. It's shrouded in mystery. Some scholars point to Fez, Morocco, around 1200 AD. Others suggest roots in ancient Egypt. Makes you wonder what secrets have been passed down through these cards across time.
It really does.
Yeah.
Now, to understand those secrets, the book emphasizes debunking a common misconception. Tarot isn't just about fortune-telling. Historically, esoteric schools, groups dedicated to uncovering hidden knowledge, saw the tarot as a way to access deeper truths about ourselves and the universe. It was a roadmap of consciousness, a guide for initiates on their spiritual journeys.
So we're not talking about pulling a card and saying, aha, this is my destiny. Instead, we'll be using these cards as prompts for reflection, for understanding our own inner landscapes.
Exactly. The book stresses the importance of symbolic, not literal interpretation, for example. The Fool isn't about being reckless, but about having the courage to begin anew. And justice isn't simply about legal matters, but achieving inner balance and taking responsibility for our actions.
Speaking of journeys, the book explains how the 22 cards of the Major Arcana actually symbolize a path known as the Fool's Journey. Have you ever heard of that?
It's a powerful metaphor for the soul's path to enlightenment, mirroring stages we all go through in life. Each card represents a phase of growth, a lesson we might encounter, or a challenge to overcome.
And of course, it all begins with the Fool, right? We see him standing at a cliff's edge, carefree, with a dog at his side. What does this really tell us about embracing the unknown?
The Fool beautifully blends the innocence and courage we need to step into the unknown. He's full of possibility, not burdened by fear or past experiences. The book suggests that the little dog symbolizes the rational mind, that part of us that wants to overthink. It's not about ignoring this voice, but learning to balance it with the courage to take leaps of faith, like the fool stepping off the cliff.
So are you at a fool's moment right now? Maybe starting a new job, ending a relationship, taking a big risk? Because this card is reminding us that those leaps, those moments of uncertainty, are crucial for growth.
Absolutely. And as we journey through the Major Arcana, we'll see how each card reflects an aspect of consciousness, superconsciousness, self-consciousness, subconscious.
Okay, so we're not just talking about pretty pictures on cards. There's real depth to these archetypes and how they connect to our minds. Can you give some specific examples?
Certainly. Let's take the Magician. The book suggests a fascinating link between the magician and the development of self-consciousness. It's that aha moment when you realize you have the power to direct your will and energy. He embodies focused consciousness, the ability to manifest our desires, to take action and create change.
It's like the architect of our reality.
Yeah.
Showing us that we have the tools to build the life we want. So if you're feeling stuck, uninspired, or like you're not living up to your full potential, the Magician is a potent reminder that you have the ability to change that.
Precisely. Now, speaking of hidden potential, let's move on to the High Priestess. She is often shrouded in mystery, holding that scroll of secret knowledge.
She always gives me this trust your gut vibe.
Yes. The High Priestess symbolizes the subconscious mind, intuition, the wisdom that lies beneath the surface. The book delves into how the High Priestess linked to the subconscious is a bridge to uniting intelligence. The idea that we're all connected on a deeper level. Think of it like this. She reminds us that we're not separate, isolated beings. We're all part of a greater whole. And tapping into our intuition helps us access this interconnected wisdom. What messages is your intuition trying to tell you?
This is where I get excited. It's like having a personal therapist in a deck of cards. Okay. So each card represents a different aspect of ourselves or a specific life lesson. What else does the book highlight about this fool's journey?
One of the key takeaways is that the book divides the Major Arcana into 3 distinct groups. The first, Beginnings and Self-Discovery, focuses on the initial steps we take on the path of self-awareness, much like the Fool taking that first leap of faith. The second group is all about growth and challenge, where we face those crucible moments that test our resilience.
So the first 7 cards from the Magician to the Chariot are all about establishing our foundation, figuring out who we are and what we want. And then the next set of cards throw some curveballs our way to help us grow right.
Exactly. And then the final group of cards delves into culmination and integration, leading us toward the realization of our highest potential.
That sounds intense. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm dying to know more about this first group, Beginnings and Self-Discovery. What kinds of insights can we gain from these cards?
The book suggests that this group is all about understanding our basic life lessons. For example, the Magician teaches us about the power of manifestation and taking action, while the High Priestess encourages us to connect with our intuition and inner wisdom.
It's like a crash course in self-discovery, using ancient symbols as our guide. Are you ready to dive deeper into the specifics of this first group?
Absolutely. Let's explore each card's symbolism, its connection to consciousness, and how we can integrate its wisdom into our lives.
This is where things get really exciting. We're about to embark on a journey into the depths of ourselves, guided by the timeless wisdom of the tarot. Buckle up, because it's going to be an insightful ride. All right, we're diving into the first group of the Major Arcana, Beginnings and Self-Discovery. Each of these cards represents a stage in the Fool's journey. Starting with the Magician. I think what's so cool about the Magician is that he doesn't just symbolize action. He's about the realization that we have the power to shape our reality.
That's a great point. It's not just about external achievements. It's about recognizing our inner power, our ability to manifest change in ourselves and the world around us.
It's almost like the Magician is that friend who's always saying, stop dreaming and start doing, but in a supportive way, of course. Yeah. What I find fascinating is that the book links the Magician to self-consciousness. Do you think that means we need to be more self-aware before we can effectively manifest our desires?
That's a great question, and I think the book would argue yes, absolutely. The Magician's tools, the wand, the cup, the sword, the pentacle, they represent different aspects of ourselves: will, emotion, intellect, and practicality. It's about becoming aware of these aspects so we can consciously direct our energy toward our goals.
I love that. It's like the Magician is saying, you have all the resources you need within you. Now go out and create something amazing.
Precisely. And as the Fool continues his journey, he encounters the High Priestess, reminding us that action without intuition can lead us astray.
Speaking of the High Priestess, this card has always intrigued me. She's veiled, mysterious, holding that scroll of secret knowledge. Is it really all about trusting your gut?
While the High Priestess certainly embodies intuition, the book goes deeper. Exploring her connection to the subconscious mind, it describes it as a vast reservoir of thoughts, feelings, and experiences we're not always aware of, but which hold profound wisdom.
So she's not just about random hunches. It's about tapping into a deeper well of knowing that's always there, guiding us. But how do we actually do that? How do we get better at listening to our intuition?
That's where the book's practical advice comes in. It suggests practices like meditation and journaling, creating space for quiet reflection so we can hear that inner voice.
That makes sense. It's like in our busy world, we need to create those High Priestess moments to tune out the noise and connect with our inner wisdom.
I love that analogy. And remember, the High Priestess is linked to the concept of uniting intelligence. It suggests that we're not separate, isolated beings, but interconnected on a deeper level. Tapping into our intuition allows us to access this collective wisdom.
So in a way, the High Priestess is guiding us toward a more holistic understanding of ourselves and the world around us.
Exactly. Now, following the High Priestess, the Fool encounters the Empress, a card bursting with creative energy and abundance. Think of her as the ultimate life giver, embodying the nurturing power of Mother Nature herself.
She's all about growth and fertility, right? But I get the sense that it's not just about having children or literal creation. There's more to it than that.
You're absolutely right. The book highlights how this creative energy can be applied to our passions, dreams, and ideas. It's about giving birth to those projects that are unique to us, nurturing them to their full potential.
It's a beautiful way to think about it. It's like the Empress is saying, don't be afraid to bring your unique gifts into the world. Nurture them and watch them blossom.
Beautifully put. And what's fascinating is that the book also links the Empress to the subconscious mind. It suggests that the subconscious is the fertile ground where creative seeds are planted and nurtured before they blossom into reality.
So it's like those aha moments when inspiration strikes seemingly out of nowhere. Those are actually the seeds planted by the Empress in our subconscious, slowly growing until they're ready to be brought into the world.
Exactly. Now, moving on from the abundance of the Empress, the Fool encounters the Emperor, who represents a very different energy.
Yes, the Emperor. He's all about structure, order, and authority. A bit more serious than the Empress, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. He represents that part of ourselves that seeks stability, creates boundaries, and takes responsibility. It's about establishing order both internally and externally.
I can see how this might feel a little restrictive after the free-flowing energy of the Empress.
That's true. But the book emphasizes that the emperor isn't about being rigid or controlling. It's about creating healthy structures and boundaries that support our growth and well-being. Think of him as the CEO of our inner world, making sure everything runs smoothly.
So if the Empress is the creative force, the Emperor is the manager, making sure those creative projects actually get done.
Precisely. And what I find intriguing is how the book connects the emperor to the concept of reason. It's about using logic and intellect to make wise decisions and build a life aligned with our values.
Okay, so we've got structure, we've got boundaries, we've got a plan, but what about guidance? Who do we turn to for wisdom and advice on this journey?
Well, that's where the Hierophant comes in. He represents tradition learning and seeking guidance from those who have come before us.
He's like the wise old sage, offering guidance and support based on the wisdom of the ages.
Exactly. And the book highlights that the Hierophant isn't about blindly following dogma or tradition. It's about seeking out teachings and practices that resonate with us, helping us connect with something larger than ourselves.
I see what you're saying about the Hierophant representing solitude. But wouldn't it also be about connecting with something larger than ourselves, even in that solitude, like tapping into a collective wisdom or spiritual tradition?
That's a brilliant insight. And you're right, the Hierophant encourages us to seek wisdom and guidance from sources outside ourselves, whether that's a teacher, a mentor, a spiritual community, or even ancient texts. It's about recognizing that we don't have to figure everything out on our own.
That's a relief. Sometimes I feel like I'm supposed to have all the answers. But the Hierophant is reminding us that it's okay to seek guidance and support.
Absolutely. And what I find fascinating is that the Hierophant is also associated with the concept of discernment. It's about developing our own inner compass, learning to distinguish between truth and falsehood, and trusting our judgment.
So the Hierophant is not only pointing us towards sources of wisdom, but he's also teaching us how to evaluate that wisdom and determine what resonates with our own truth.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, moving on from the wise counsel of the Hierophant, the Fool encounters the Lovers. This card, as you might expect, is all about relationships.
The Lovers. It's such a romantic card. But I know there's more to it than just hearts and flowers, right?
Absolutely. The Lovers represent a pivotal point in the Fool's journey. It's about making choices, understanding our values, and determining what truly resonates with our hearts.
So it's not just about falling in love.
Not exactly. While romantic love is certainly a part of it, the book emphasizes that the Lovers represent choices that extend beyond romantic relationships. It could be a choice about a career path, a creative project, or even a way of life.
So it's about choosing what we want to create, who we want to be with, and what values we want to prioritize in our lives.
Precisely. And as you can imagine, these choices aren't always easy. The book highlights the importance of weighing our options, carefully listening to our intuition, and ultimately choosing the path that feels most aligned with our authentic selves.
Like standing at a crossroads, like the Fool in the card, and having to choose which path to take.
That's a great way to visualize it. And the book suggests that the two figures in the Lover's card, often depicted as Adam and Eve, represent those opposing forces within us that we need to reconcile. It could be logic versus intuition, passion versus practicality, or even the desires of the ego versus the yearnings of the soul.
So the Lovers are reminding us that true harmony comes from finding balance within ourselves and then making choices that reflect that inner alignment.
Exactly. Now, moving on from the realm of relationships and choices, the Fool encounters the Chariot, a card embodying willpower, determination, and the drive to achieve our goals.
The Chariot. Now that's a card that speaks to my get-it-done attitude. It seems like it's all about taking control and charging ahead.
You're right that the Chariot embodies a sense of willpower and direction, but the book cautions against interpreting it as simply brute force or aggression. It's about harnessing that inner drive, mastering our emotions, and channeling our energy towards something constructive.
So it's not just about powering through obstacles. It's about having the self-control and focus to navigate those challenges effectively.
Exactly. It's about becoming the master of our own chariot, steering our lives in the direction we want to go.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we can have all the ambition in the world. But without the self-mastery and discipline of the Chariot, we might end up going in circles or crashing and burning.
Precisely. And what's fascinating is that the book connects the Chariot to the concept of self-mastery. It's about learning to control those opposing forces within ourselves,
Oh,
integrating the light and shadow aspects that can either propel us forward or hold us back.
that's so insightful. It's like the chariot is saying, yes, you have great power and ambition, but make sure you're the one in control, not your impulses or your fears.
Absolutely. The chariot is a reminder that true strength lies in balance and self-control.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in this first group of cards. From the magician's call to action, to the high priestess's wisdom, to the empress's nurturing energy, the emperor's structure, the hierophant's guidance, the lover's choices, and the chariot's self-mastery. It's like we've gotten a crash course in self-discovery.
It is quite a journey, isn't it? And remember, these are just the first steps. The real magic happens when we take these insights and apply them to our own lives.
Exactly. But before we move on to the next group of cards, I'd love to hear from you. Which card from this group resonates most with you right now? Are you feeling the magician's call to action, the high priestess's intuition, or maybe the emperor's need for structure? Share your thoughts.
We'll be back soon to explore the next phase of the Fool's journey, where we'll delve into those cards that represent growth, challenge, and transformation. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the Tarot's Major Arcana. We've explored the first phase of the Fool's journey, beginnings and self-discovery. But as we all know, life isn't always about new beginnings. It's also about facing challenges, overcoming obstacles, and learning from those experiences.
That's where this next group of cards comes in, growth and challenge. What's fascinating is how the book highlights the importance of balance during these stages, both internally and externally. It's about navigating opposing forces within ourselves, those light and shadow aspects that can either help or hinder us.
So we're talking about stepping out of our comfort zones, confronting those things we might usually avoid.
Exactly. It's about understanding that growth often comes from facing challenges head-on, rather than trying to bypass them.
Okay, so bring on the challenges. First up in this group is strength. But I have a feeling this isn't about bench pressing your way through life.
You're right, it's not about physical strength. The book describes it as a gentle power, an inner resilience that helps us face life's trials with compassion and understanding.
That makes sense. It's like sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose kindness over aggression, patience over impulsivity.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that the card often depicts a woman gently taming a lion. It's a beautiful metaphor for mastering our own inner beast, those primal instincts that might lead us astray if left unchecked.
It's like instead of denying those instincts, we learn to integrate them, work with them,
Yeah.
and channel that energy into something positive.
Precisely. Now, after the courageous heart of strength, the fool encounters the hermit. He seems to represent a very different energy.
Yes, the hermit. I actually find this card really comforting. He's like that wise old soul who retreats from the world to seek inner wisdom.
You've captured his essence perfectly. He embodies the need for introspection, for seeking guidance from within, for trusting that inner voice. But the book is careful to point out that solitude isn't about loneliness or isolation.
So it's not about becoming a recluse and shutting out the world.
Not at all. It's about creating space for those quiet moments of reflection, where we can connect with our higher selves and listen to our intuition.
It's like hitting the pause button on life's craziness to reconnect with our inner compass.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is how the book links the hermit to the concept of inner guidance. It suggests that by turning inward, by quieting the external noise, we can access a wellspring of wisdom that's always available to us.
That's so empowering. It's like we don't always need to seek answers from external sources. We have a powerful guide within us.
Precisely. Now, after the quiet introspection of the hermit, the fool encounters a card that reminds us that change is inevitable. The Wheel of Fortune.
Oh yes, the Wheel of Fortune. I always get a little nervous when this card comes up in a reading. It feels like anything could happen.
It's true. The Wheel of Fortune represents the cyclical nature of life, the constant ebb and flow, the ups and downs we all experience. It reminds us that change is the only constant. But the book emphasizes that we're not simply passive victims of fate.
So it's not about resigning ourselves to whatever life throws at us.
Not at all. The book suggests that the Wheel of Fortune encourages us to recognize the patterns, understand the cycles, and learn to adapt to change with grace and resilience.
So it's like, okay, life is going to throw me curveballs, but I can learn to surf those waves instead of getting knocked down by them.
Exactly. And what I find fascinating is how the Wheel of Fortune is often associated with the concept of karma. It's a reminder that our actions have consequences, and that by making conscious choices, we can influence the direction of the wheel.
Okay, so we're embracing change, understanding the cycles, making conscious choices. But what about when we're dealing with issues of fairness and justice?
Well, that's where the Justice card comes in. It represents the need for balance, fairness, and accountability. It's about making sure our actions align with our values.
I've always seen Justice as a bit of a straight shooter. She's not messing around right.
You could say that. She holds those scales, representing the need for balance and impartiality. The book stresses that justice isn't just about external laws and regulations. It's about cultivating a sense of fairness within ourselves.
So it's like that inner knowing of what's right and wrong, and making sure our actions are in alignment with that.
Precisely. It's about being honest with ourselves, taking responsibility for our mistakes, and making amends when necessary. What's intriguing is how the book links justice to the concept of cause and effect.
So she's not just about punishment. It's about understanding that our choices create ripples in the world.
Exactly. Every action has a consequence. And by making conscious ethical choices, we contribute to a more just and balanced world for ourselves and others. Now, after the call for balance and accountability of justice, the Fool encounters a card that challenges our usual way of seeing things. The Hanged Man.
Oh, the Hanged Man. He's always seemed a bit mysterious to me. He's hanging upside down, just chilling. What's that all about?
He's definitely one of the more enigmatic cards. The Hanged Man represents a need to surrender, to let go of control, to shift our perspective. It's about seeing things from a different angle.
So it's not about being passive or giving up.
Not at all. The book emphasizes that the Hanged Man's surrender is about recognizing that sometimes the best course of action is to pause, reflect, and allow things to unfold naturally. It's about trusting the process, even when we don't fully understand it.
It's like saying, okay, universe, I'm letting go of my need to control everything. Show me what I need to see.
Exactly. And I think what's particularly relevant for our times is how the book connects the Hanged Man to the concept of sacrifice.
Sacrifice. That sounds a bit intense.
It can be, but the book suggests that it's about letting go of something that no longer serves us, an outdated belief, a relationship that's run its course, even a way of life that's holding us back.
So it's like sometimes we need to release what's familiar and comfortable to make space for something new and better to emerge.
Precisely. Now, following the Hanged Man's call to surrender, the Fool encounters a card that often evokes fear. Death.
Death. Okay, I have to admit, this is one card that always gives me chills. But I know it's not about literal death, right?
You're absolutely right. The book is very clear about this. Death in the tarot isn't about physical death. It's about those necessary endings that make way for new beginnings. It's about transformation, rebirth, the cyclical nature of life itself.
So it's less about the end and more about a transition, a shedding of the old to make way for the new.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that death isn't something to be feared, but rather a natural part of the cycle. It's a process of letting go of old patterns, beliefs, and attachments that are no longer serving us.
It's like nature's way of saying out with the old, in with the new.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is how the book connects death to the concept of renewal. It suggests that by embracing those necessary endings, we create space for fresh energy and new possibilities to emerge.
I love that. It's like, even though endings can be painful, they're ultimately opportunities for growth and transformation.
Absolutely. Finally, the last card in this group of growth and challenge brings us to Temperance, a card all about balance and harmony. Temperance. I've always found her to be a calming presence. She seems to be all about finding that sweet spot, that perfect blend.
You've got it. The book describes temperance as the need for moderation, balance, and the integration of different aspects of ourselves.
So it's not about denying any part of ourselves, but rather finding a way to honor all those different aspects and integrate them into a cohesive whole.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Temperance encourages us to find that middle path, that sense of equilibrium that allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with grace and ease.
She's like the ultimate alchemist, blending those different elements of our being to create something truly magical.
What a beautiful way to put it. And what's fascinating is how the book links temperance to the concept of healing. It suggests that by finding balance and harmony within ourselves, we create the conditions for healing to occur on all levels: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Wow. We've journeyed through quite a range of experiences in this group of cards, from the inner strength of strength to the introspection of the hermit, the change of the wheel of fortune, the fairness of justice, the surrender of the hanged man, the transformation of death, and the balance of temperance. It's been quite a ride.
It really has. We've explored how these cards representing growth and challenge can help us navigate those inevitable ups and downs of life with greater awareness and resilience.
But before we wrap up, I want to know which card from this group speaks to you most strongly right now. Are you facing a challenge that requires the strength, the wisdom of the hermit, or maybe the acceptance of death?
Take a moment to reflect on where you are on your journey. Which of these cards offers you guidance and support at this time?
And remember, even though this deep dive is coming to an end, your exploration of the Tarot's Major Arcana is just beginning.
The book we've been discussing, Tarot Major Arcana, Unlocking the Mysteries to the Journey of Self-Discovery, offers a wealth of knowledge and insights that we've only just begun to uncover.
So if you're intrigued by what we've explored today, I encourage you to pick up a copy of the book and continue your own personal journey of self-discovery with the tarot as your guide.
It's an incredible tool for self-awareness, growth, and transformation, and as you delve deeper, you'll undoubtedly uncover even more profound insights and connections that resonate with your unique path.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep diving deep.